going to direct this question to you. What are some of the factors that can weaken and even make us susceptible to stress and anxiety?
Right. There's sometimes when even the best of us, right, we struggle. And there are definitive factors that can come together to really test and even weaken resilience. I would say one of those factors might be something of what we're experiencing right now, which is the timing and the nature of the stressors that we're facing. So, for example, the coronavirus pandemic was fairly, I would say almost 100% unanticipated in terms of its abruptness and the timing in which it appeared, the severity of it and the impact of it. So that unpredictable nature of a stressor can make it difficult for us to bounce back quite as easily as we might have. When stressors are stacked on top of one another. So in the case of the coronavirus pandemic, we've got health, right? We've got economic, we've got societal at every level and global. We've got multiple factors coming together at one time so that most of us are dealing not just with one, but several areas of our lives that are becoming destabilized at one time. And that can really give a blow to our natural inborn resilience. Some of us have great support systems, some of us don't, we might be more susceptible to resilience when our normal support systems have disintegrated or changed for some reason. And then finally, there's definitively a biochemical predisposition to susceptibility to things like stress and anxiety. We know that, for example, women, for better or for worse, we are two times as likely as men to experience anxiety disorders. And we know that a lot of that is tied to hormonal and cyclical changes. So we know in the post-menopause, postpartum, those are periods of time during a woman's life when she may be more susceptible to being less resilient. So those are some factors for us to keep in mind.
So, Anne, how common is clinical anxiety and what does it look like?
Yes, it's a great question. Would you believe that 1 in 5 of us sitting here today is probably going to experience or has experienced about what I would consider to be clinically significant anxiety within the past year? So it's extremely common in the United States. As I'd mentioned before, women 2 times as common as men. And the difference that I get asked a lot is, well, how do I know if I'm just stressed out or if this is something that's shadowing into a more significant area? I would say the difference between sort of routine stress, if you want to call it that, and more extreme stress is the nature of timing, how persistent the stress feels to you, and also how it impacts you functionally. So for example, you and I, all of us here, we know that we go through stressors in life. It's just a part of life. But eventually we bounce back. We find ourselves sort of picking ourselves up. We have that resilience. We get back on track. When it becomes clinically significant, it's very, very hard to bounce back. We're thinking to ourselves, gee, I should be coming back from this, but it's just going on and on and on. And the usual tools that we have to get ourselves back on track just are not really doing it for us. And the way that this rolls out is that we see it impact our functioning. So we might see things like impact on our health. Our sleep becomes disrupted. Our appetite or our weight changes. Our energy levels are significantly lower than they might be. We might notice this in our productivity at work. We might notice this our peers at work, our colleagues at work are commenting to us, hey, what's going on? I've noticed you've sort of slipped or you've missed in this area. We're getting that kind of feedback that we might normally not get. And relationship-wise, we might also notice that we're heading into some choppy waters where normally we wouldn't. So those can all be flags that can be helpful to let us know, is this something passing or is this something that's a little bit stickier and might need a different level of be addressed in a different way.
Is there a time frame that you would look to, Anne, as a clinician for someone to know when they're getting out of the sort of range of what is considered to be neurotypical and in the range of where it might need more support or attention by a trained clinician?
That's a great question. So the definition for what we call probably the most common anxiety that I'll see in my office would be what we call generalized anxiety disorder. And so we give that a time frame anywhere from a month to about 6 months. Is that window that we begin to say, this looks a little different than usual. So I would say if you notice yourself persisting over that period of time between 1 to 6 months or longer, or you're noticing intensity, that might be a great time to reach out and say, you know what, I need a second set of eyes to take a look at this with me.
That's helpful.